I never expected my innocent words about my MOMS ring to leave a billionaire in tears. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It felt like the universe decided to unravel all at once. There I was, in a swanky gala hall, surrounded by glimmering chandeliers and the sound of clinking glasses. But I was lost in my own thoughts, clutching my mother's ring, an antique family heirloom shimmering with stories of love and loss. I stared at the ring, its gold intricate design gleaming under the lights. It wasn't just jewelry. It was my mom's legacy, her spirit captured in that tiny circle. I missed her every day, especially in moments like this, moments that should have felt celebratory but felt empty without her laughter. Then he showed up. Cameron Steele, the billionaire whose name was on every tabloid cover. Handsome, confident, and radiating wealth. But there was something more. As I spoke, admiring the ring, I could see his eyes widen. It can't be, he murmured, his voice trembling slightly. The noise of the party blurred into a dull roar, as I struggled with the confusion in his expression. What do you mean? I asked, my heart pounding in my chest. Suddenly, it felt like everyone was watching us, and the air was thick with tension. He stepped closer, his hands trembling, and I could see the disbelief on his face. There was a pain there, deep, simmering just beneath the surface. His gaze never left the ring. Where did you get that? He asked, almost a whisper, as if he feared the answer. The silence hung heavy between us, and I could feel my stomach churn. I felt exposed, vulnerable, like I was hiding something monumental. It was my mother's, I replied softly. A tightness settled in my throat as nostalgia washed over me. She gave it to me before she passed. I wear it to remember her. The soft hum of the orchestra felt like a distant heartbeat now. I could see the tears welling up in his eyes, and my heart sank. No, he breathed, his voice almost breaking. The world around us faded, and suddenly it was just the two of us, locked in this inexplicable moment. I saw flashes of something in his eyes, grief, recognition, a whisper of hope. I don't know why, but against the backdrop of perfectly manicured laughter and swirling silk gowns, my words struck him like a bolt of lightning. He stepped back, as if the ring burned him. His face twisted with emotions I couldn't quite place. What is going on? The crowd around us blurred into shadows, and I no longer cared about the party. I only cared about this man, this stranger who looked like the weight of the world rested on his shoulders, all because of a ring. Can't be, he repeated, pacing nervously, glancing at the guests who seemed oblivious. Who was this man, and why did he care so much about my mother's ring? I wanted to grab him and shake the truth out of him, and then something shifted. A flicker of realization crossed his face. I need to know. I need to understand, he said urgently. But before I could respond, he turned abruptly, disappearing into the throng of elegantly dressed figures. A piece of my heart was lost with him, a question lingering on my lips. What did my mother's ring mean to him? As the music played on, the world didn't process the stillness between us. My head swirled with confusion and curiosity, a billion unanswered questions. And all I could think was, I had no idea how deeply a single ring could connect lives. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The evening wore on, but I felt like I was trapped in a moment that refused to unfold. I stood there, the remnants of the gala swirling around me in a blur, with questions pounding in my head, like an unrelenting drum. Everyone laughed and danced as if the world was an uncomplicated place. But in my heart, a tempest was brewing. I slipped away from the crowd, feeling my skin prickle with anticipation and confusion. What had I done to cause such a reaction in Cameron Steele? The deeper I thought about it, the more my mind spiraled out of control. What did his tears mean? Why was he so deeply affected by a piece of jewelry that had borne witness to my mother's joys and sorrows? The faint sound of the orchestra faded behind me as I made my way to the balcony. The chilly night air brushed against my skin, grounding me slightly. I took a deep breath, trying to shake off the overwhelming emotions. Looking out over the city, I could see the twinkling lights that reminded me of stars, each one a wish, a dream, a heartbeat. But then, something rustled behind me. I turned, half expecting it to be an errant guest, but it was Cameron. His face was a storm of emotions, illuminated by the moonlight as he stepped closer, vulnerability radiating from him. I felt a rush of guilt for having pulled away earlier, for not understanding the depth of his feelings. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to run off." His voice was steadier now, but the pain remained, a shadow lurking behind his eyes. "Can you tell me why my mother's ring affected you so much?" I asked, my heart racing. The world felt suspended between us as we contemplated the unknown. He hesitated, the tension stretching thin in the air before snapping back. "That ring belonged to my grandmother," he confessed, his voice trembling slightly. "She told me stories about it, how it was passed down, how it symbolized a promise of hope. When I lost her, I lost so much more than just a grandmother. I lost my tether to who I am." I was taken aback. The connection that bound us tightened, tethered by grief and nostalgia for those we had lost. I could see the heartbreak etched on his face. "But how?" I stammered, feeling the world tilt beneath me. "How could you recognize it?" "The intricate design," he murmured, almost to himself. "It was one of a kind." I never thought. He drew in a shaky breath. "I thought it was lost forever. After her passing, all I had left were old photographs. Then I saw you, and for the briefest moment, I thought, I don't know, maybe there was a chance to find a piece of her again." My heart ached to hear his words. It was a deeply layered confession, revealing that he carried the weight of unresolved grief. The burden of loss tied us together in ways I could not yet comprehend. "I never meant to bring up such painful memories," I whispered, my heart breaking for him, and yet swelling with an odd sense of connection we now shared. Cameron stepped closer, searching my eyes. "No, it's not your fault. It's just seeing that ring again stirred something in me that I thought was buried deep. A part of me that was lost." His voice broke slightly, exposing the vulnerability that made him so raw and real in that moment. Just then, a shattering sound pulled us back to the gala, a glass breaking, laughter echoing, and suddenly the moment felt fragile, a crystal teetering on the edge. I glanced back at the party, feeling a swell of conflicting emotions. Part of me wanted to embrace this newfound bond, while the other felt the overwhelming weight of our separate histories. "Would you like to come inside?" I suggested hesitantly, but he caught my gaze with urgency. "Wait, there's more. I have to tell you something else." Before he could finish, the unexpected arrival of a tall figure interrupted us. Victor, his best friend, stepping onto the balcony, his expression suddenly darkening as he realized we were lost in our moment. "Cameron, we need to talk now," he said, urgency laced in his tone. The flicker of connection between Cameron and me felt like it might just snuff out in an instant as he hesitated. "Just give me a minute," Cameron replied, frustration tinging his voice. Victor's gaze, sharp and calculating, landed on me. A strange tension crackled in the air. "This isn't the time," he insisted, looking at Cameron as if there was something more at stake here than just a conversation. Cameron turned back to me, his expression caught between desire and obligation. I felt a tight knot forming in my stomach. "I'll be right back," he promised, but his eyes carried the weight of uncertainty. As he followed Victor inside, and the door clicked shut behind them, a fresh wave of doubt crashed over me. What was it that Victor wanted to say? What secrets loomed just beyond my grasp, threatening to sever the fragile connection I had with Cameron? I stood alone on the balcony, gripping my mother's ring tight, the cool metal grounding me as confusion wrapped around my heart. The uncertainty of what was happening loomed large, and a gnawing sensation of dread settled in my chest. I could feel the darkness approaching, but a glimmer of hope persisted, entwined with the fear. In a single night, everything had changed, but I was still left with the same question: would this connection survive the storm? As the door clicked shut behind them, the chill of the night air settled deeper inside me. The gala's laughter and music felt like distant echoes, a realm I no longer belonged to. Anxiety gripped my heart as I stared into the darkness, contemplating the abrupt end to our moment of connection. Cameron's revelation weighed heavily in my mind. My mother's ring had been a comforting relic of love and tenacity, but now it was a shard of their intertwined histories, a bittersweet ghost of the past. What more could he reveal? What was Victor's urgency overshadowing our fragile moment? I turned my gaze down to the ring glimmering against my skin, a piece of a legacy that had echoed through time, binding loss and love. Touching it brought me no solace. Rather, it amplified the echoes of my own grief. My mother had passed just a year ago, leaving a chasm in my heart that had felt insurmountable. Suddenly, I recalled all those nights spent searching for her in faded photographs and cherished memories. I thought of her laughter, of her tender assurances that I would always have the strength to face whatever life threw at me. Her spirit was woven into this ring, yet I couldn't help but question my next steps. Should I tell Cameron about the fullness of my story, or would it only complicate his struggle with his own past? Just as the weight of my musings felt like it might consume me, I heard the door creak open. I turned, heart racing. Cameron stepped out, his expression a mix of determination and trepidation. Behind him, Victor lingered, his intense gaze surveying the space as if assessing every word shared between us. "I need to talk to you about something important," Cameron said, his voice firm yet laced with the vulnerability we had just shared. Victor, he was concerned about me being caught up in memories that might distract from reality. He thinks Victor stepped forward, his arm brushing against Cameron's as he interrupted. "This isn't just about you, Cameron. We have a deal to uphold," he spat, casting a sidelong glance at me, as if to suggest my presence was an inconvenience. "Victor, please," Cameron replied, the light in his eyes dimming as he turned back to me. "I want to explain everything to you. Just give me a moment. Can you wait?" The words felt like shards of glass against my heart. His urgency contrasted with Victor's cold insistence, a hand-stitch of obligation pulling Cameron away from the vulnerability we had just begun to explore. "I can wait," I said quietly, trying to mask the flutter of disappointment that encased me. Victor seemed far from pleased, his posture stiff and combative. "Cameron, you know what is at stake here. This isn't just about your past. It's about your future." The anxiety in the pit of my stomach surged. I had no idea about the future Victor spoke of, but the tightness in his voice suggested it was something I wanted to be a part of. I suddenly felt like an intruder in a narrative I hadn't asked to join. Cameron's shoulders slumped, a flicker of defeat crossing his face. "Just trust me. There is so much you don't understand," he pleaded, his eyes flicking back to mine, searching for connection. "Then explain it," I urged, stepping closer. "If there is something more that ties us together, if it's going to affect you." Before I could finish, Victor's phone buzzed violently, an interruption I both resented and welcomed. He glanced down, irritation flicking across his face. "We'll pick this up later. We've got company," he called over his shoulder, moving to pace inside, leaving Cameron torn between duty and desire. In those few breaths, the air between us thickened, filled with questions and the unspoken past that haunted both of us. "What does he mean by company?" I asked, curiosity clawing at my heart. Cameron bit his lip, hesitating as if assessing how much he dared share. "It's a business matter. I'd rather it didn't involve you." "Business doesn't concern love, Cameron," I shot back, an edge of frustration creeping into my voice, sensing the urgency of the moment slipping through my fingers. "Love isn't always enough, especially when there are contracts and obligations at stake," he countered, regret shimmering in his eyes. "This isn't just about us." I shook my head, tears pricking the corners of my eyes. "Then why are we still standing here? If there is anything more, if I could help somehow." My voice trailed off, uncertainty lodging in my throat. His gaze softened, a painful reminder of the connection we had briefly touched. "Trust is hard to earn," he murmured, inching forward. "Even when it feels so intense." Just as I opened my mouth to respond, a large figure stepped out from the shadows of the hallway, an imposing presence, with a familiar face that sent an electric shock through my core. My heart plummeted as the realization hit me, the last person I expected to see. "Ready to go, Cameron?" he called, a devilish grin spreading across his face. "I hope you're prepared for some revelations." My world tilted, anxiety flooding me as I looked between Cameron and the newcomer, instinctively knowing that whatever lay ahead would push us further apart. The connection that had felt so promising now seemed whirled us away, bound by unseen forces I was not ready to face. As the weight of those words hung thick in the air, I watched Nathan Hudson, the billionaire, the man whose name reverberated through the city like an unstoppable force. His presence felt like an earthquake, shaking the ground beneath our fragile connection. I swallowed hard, the gut-wrenching mix of confusion and fear rooting me to the spot. Nathan stepped closer, his confidence radiating like heat. "Cameron, I've been looking for you. We need to discuss the merger." His eyes flicked to me, dark and inscrutable. "And perhaps some personal matters too." That last comment sent a shiver down my spine, his gaze unsettling in its intensity. Cameron's expression shifted, a blend of anger and apprehension washing over his features. "Not here, Nathan. This isn't the time," he said, a resolve tightening his voice. "And yet, here we are," Nathan replied smoothly, eyes twinkling, a predator toying with its prey. "The more you resist, the more I'm intrigued." I fumbled for words, trying to make sense of the rapid escalation of emotion swirling within me. "What personal matters?" I managed to ask, my voice barely a whisper. I felt like an errant child eavesdropping on an adult conversation, shivering under the weight of knowledge I didn't yet have. Nathan's grin widened, a sight that made my chest constrict uneasily. "Oh, you know, secrets buried in our past, but also in our family trees. You'll soon find out how tangled they are." The implication of his words wrapped around my heart like a vice. I exchanged uncertain glances with Cameron, my pulse thrumming in my ears. "Cameron, who is he to you?" I pressed, desperate for answers. My mind raced with 1,000 thoughts, spinning remnants of fear and an uneasy truth. Nathan leaned against the doorframe, looking every bit the master of a game that felt far too dangerous for me. Just a friend, and perhaps a deal-maker. His eyes twinkled with mischief, as if he reveled in the escalating tension. "We all wear masks, don't we? But sometimes they slip, and that's when the real stories emerge. I won't let you do this to her." Cameron's voice trembled with a newfound intensity. "You can't just drag people into something they didn't choose." Nathan shrugged, his nonchalance grating against my frayed nerves. "But she is already involved, Cameron. You brought her to the gala. You showed her the ring." The smile fading slightly, he continued, "Your past isn't just yours anymore. It's a shared history." I felt as if I was trapped in a vortex, emotions from every direction crashing into me without warning. I didn't know who to trust, nor how deep the fissures ran in the complicated web that seemed to bind Cameron and Nathan. Cameron, please. What is he talking about? Victor's return to the doorway drew my attention, his eyes flashing a warning. We don't have time for this, he said, cutting through the tension. The urgency in his tone sparked a flicker of doubt. Why was everyone acting like I was naive in this treacherous emotional landscape? Cameron shot a pleading glance my way, desperation flooding his features. I'll explain, I promise, but the more you know now, the less time I'll have to protect you from the fallout. Just hang on, he urged. I felt a rush of warmth at his concern, yet it only left me feeling colder at the realization that we were standing on a precipice. Protect me? From what? Anger bubbled in my chest, but beneath it all lingered a haunting tenderness that made my head spin. And then, as if on cue, an unyielding ringing shattered the fragile moment. Nathan's phone vibrated violently in his pocket, and his expression shifted instantly, the playful glint replaced by something darker. He answered abruptly, his eyes narrowing, voice low and clipped. What do you mean there's been a change in plans? I'm not ready to. He glanced at us, then stepped aside, murmuring into the phone, his words a low hum vibrating through the tension in the air. I didn't fully comprehend his conversation, but even though I was miles away from being privy to their hidden dealings, it felt like a shroud had dropped around me, trapping me in a net of uncertainty. When Nathan finally ended the call, a cool detachment enveloped him, the wicked grin reappearing on his face. Well, it seems things have become a bit more complex than I anticipated. And now, I guess we'll all have to face the music together. My heart sank. I felt the walls closing in, the realization that I was on the brink of something monumental settling in my gut. I turned to Cameron, searching for any glimmer of reassurance. Cameron, please, but his attention had drifted back to Nathan, his expression caught between resignation and dread. You don't have to do this, Nathan, he said firmly. A moment suspended in time shimmered around us before Nathan smirked and took a step back, pivoting to stride toward the door. Oh, but I think you underestimate the importance of family ties and how they can either bind us or break us. As he left, the echo of his footsteps reverberated in my chest. I turned back to Cameron, dread pooling within me. What just happened? With a heavy sigh, he took my hand gently, running his thumb over the ring I was still clutching. Promise me, we will get through this, whatever it is. But we might have to confront truths we've both been avoiding. Just then, a sudden realization crashed over me, paralyzing me. Cameron, what if Nathan knows about my mother? What if his expression hardened, and I felt a shift in the atmosphere? No, we can't go down that path. For now, just trust me. But as I searched his eyes, I saw shadows dancing at the edges, a storm brewing not just on the horizon, but right upon us. I realized that trust was fragile like glass that could shatter with just a single misstep. And if Nathan knew anything about my mother's past, we were all in grave danger. The cliffhanger consumed me, twisting a knife of foreboding deep into my heart, as I braced for the chaos that was about to unfold. The air felt electric, charged with a tension that crawled under my skin. I could feel Cameron's hand tighten around mine, yet his gaze was cast downward, far away from the comforting warmth I craved. Cameron, please. You need to tell me everything. My voice cracked, a sound swallowed by the oppressive silence that enveloped us. He sighed, exhaustion seeping through the resolve on his face. Okay. But remember, this is far more complicated than either of us ever anticipated. His words hung between us like a fragile thread, ready to snap at the slightest tug. As we moved to the corner of the room, where the shadows lingered, I leaned in, desperate for answers. Nathan, what did he mean by family ties? Cameron pinched the bridge of his nose as if in pain, his forehead creasing in thought. "It's about our families, Camilla," he began, his voice trembling slightly. "Our fathers have history a past that is intertwined, and it's a history I thought I'd buried long ago." The revelation struck me like a bolt of lightning. "What do you mean? Are you saying Nathan is linked to my mother?" I wouldn't dare utter her name, the weight of it suffocating me, yet I felt it there, hanging just above the battered ground we stood on. His eyes were dark, filled with uncertainty. "Yes. Our fathers were business partners." There were whispers, things swept under the rug, and then your mother disappeared. Each word felt like a stone dropped in a pond, creating ripples of dread that spread through me. I shook my head, disbelief mingling with a flicker of hope that surged against my better judgment. "No, that can't be right. She left because she wanted to protect us." "Protect us? Or was it something more?" Cameron challenged gently, his brow knitting in concern. "What if she was afraid? What if Nathan knows something that we don't?" A chill filled the space where warmth had once existed, and the past, filled with echoes of heartbreak, threatened to consume me. I found myself pushing the boundaries of reality. But my mother loved us. She wouldn't betray us. She wouldn't leave without reason. "Sometimes our parents make choices we cannot comprehend," he replied softly, anguish evident in his tone. "I can't pretend to know why she did what she did, but there must be answers that we haven't found." Just then, Victor re-entered the room, his expression grim, slashing through our moment of vulnerability. "Nathan's not just playing. He has assembled a team, digging for whatever he can unearth about your family, Camilla. And I fear their intentions aren't pure." I felt a tremble in my limbs, a desperate pulse of confusion and fear spurring me into motion. "Digging? For what? If it's about my mother, doesn't that put both of us in danger?" "More than you know," Victor affirmed, his eyes darkening. "If Nathan uncovers anything that links your mother to our fathers, we could all be caught in a firestorm." Panic rose within me like a suffocating fog. "But why now? Why not before? What does he want?" "Power. Control. Revenge," Cameron whispered, his voice a whip of tension as he moved closer, urging me to listen. "Your mother was sacrificed in a battle between our families, and Nathan is the one who blames yours." Before I could respond, a loud crash echoed from the adjoining room. We turned, all eyes darting toward the sound that shattered our fragile resolve. The door swung open, revealing two unexpected figures, Nathan and an infuriated woman with dark curls cascading around her shoulders. A fierce glare set upon us. "Fair warning, Nathan," she snapped, her voice trembling with rage. "If you're trying to draw her into this madness again, you'll have to go through me." My heart raced as recognition sliced through me with the sharpness of a knife. This was Eliza, Nathan's sister, a name spoken like a ghost through whispered conversations. "She doesn't belong in this family feud, Eliza," Nathan replied, indignant, his eyes darting to me, as if he held the very truths tethered to my lineage in the palm of his hand. "But she is already part of a story written long before any of us existed." The implications hung like a guillotine above us, poised and ready to drop. As if sensing the emotional storm that brewed between us, Eliza stepped forward, her expression softer, yet resolute. "Camilla, you can walk away from this, there is still time. This eyes into your battle." Cameron's grip tightened around my arm, the intensity of his gaze igniting a fire beneath my skin. "She sacrificed too much to let go now. We need to help her, Eliza, not push her out." For that fleeting moment, I clung to the flicker of hope the chaos had churned within me, a hope that maybe, just maybe, I wasn't alone in this storm. As the web of dark family secrets loomed around us, I knew that my fate hung on the precipice of this newfound alliance. But before I could collect my scattered thoughts or form a coherent response, Nathan stepped closer, an inscrutable look crossing his features. You will understand soon enough, Camilla. What has been done cannot be undone, and the truth is darker than you can possibly imagine. In that moment, the wall seemed to close and his dread engulfed me once again, and I realized that this battle wasn't just for secrets long buried, it was for the very lives we cherished. A newfound terror blossomed within, as the weight of the truth hung over us like a storm cloud ready to unleash its fury. And just as Nathan turned to leave, another call blared through the silence of the room, his phone buzzing ominously with urgency. He paused, a crease forming in his forehead before his eyes darted momentarily toward me. This was it, the tipping point. They were no longer just players in a game turned against one another. Now they had drawn me in completely a pawn in a much larger scheme. The question lingered in the air with an unbearable weight. How deep did the rabbit hole go, and could we emerge unscathed? The cliffhanger loomed, a chasm gaping in the fabric of my understanding, and I braced for the fallout, scarcely able to comprehend how intertwined my destiny had now become with the dark threads of Nathan's past. The weight of Nathan's words lingered in the air, a foreboding shadow gripping the room, as if the very walls savored the anguish. Eliza, caught in a cyclone of emotions, paced back and forth, her vibrant curls bouncing with each determined step. Camilla, promise me you won't let this consume you. You're stronger than that. Don't let their grudges become yours, she urged, her eyes pleading. But I felt every inch of the heaviness tethering me to this fight. It's not just a choice, Eliza. This isn't a mere family squabble. It's buried under heartbreak and lies, and I can't just turn my back on the truth. My own words echoed back to me, raw and vulnerable. This was about more than my mother's past. It was about reclaiming pieces of myself that had been lost in the dark. Cameron interjected, his voice low but firm. We're in this together, right? We'll find a way through this, Camilla. And if Nathan has answers, we'll dig them out of him. If we're to confront our histories, we can't do it alone. Despite his conviction, there was an undercurrent of fear that flickered behind his eyes, fear for me, fear of the unknown. Victor remained a steadfast presence, tension etched into every line of his face. Whatever Nathan thinks he knows, we need to act fast. He is dangerous, and if he is digging into your family, there might be others involved, others who won't hesitate to put you in harm's way. The urgency of our situation laced through every heartbeat, and I couldn't shake the thought that each moment counted. I glanced at Eliza, her fierce determination evident even as confusion clouded my judgment. You seem to know Nathan well. Is there any chance he would share these secrets willingly? Her jaw tightened in contemplation before she muttered, he likes making people play his games. But if there's one thing I know, it's that he has his weak spots. Then we use that, I declared, a sense of purpose igniting within me. But what are we risking? What if he decides to retaliate, or worse, brings more players into this twisted game? It's a risk we'll have to take, Cameron said, squeezing my hand, an anchor in the storm. We cannot let this cycle of vengeance swallow us whole. We will confront Nathan, find the truth, and perhaps, I don't know, try to make sense of everything. As the resolve formed in my heart, I remembered the ring, my mother's ring, that had glinted with the stories trapped within its delicate gold. Maybe it's not just about confronting Nathan. Perhaps the key lies in connecting with my past. I need to understand why my mother took it off, why she left. My voice softened as I continued. There was something heavy wrapped around it, a promise, maybe, or a curse. I need to know if there's a thread connecting her to Nathan's family that we haven't unearthed yet. Cameron's brow furrowed, processing my words. Can you think of where the ring might lead us? Do you have anything of hers that can act as a clue? Something that belonged to her? The question gripped me tightly as I wrestled with a flood of memories, the bad and the beautiful. For a fleeting moment, I could see her fingers curling around that same ring, her joyful laughter filling my childhood home. But then the fog of darkness seeped in, and all memories turned stifling, leading into shadows of loss that threatened to consume me. I have to go back home. There might be things in her old jewelry box, things I never thought to check. We need to start there. Hope tempered with anxiety ignited a fearful determination in my heart. I glanced at Eliza. She had to understand what I needed from her. As long as we can stick together, I'll help, she declared, her eyes in fierce agreement. We all will, Victor chimed in. Whatever we find, we'll face it together. Nathan's not invincible. He is just a man with a twisted vendetta. With a new sense of clarity, we began to form a plan, each of us feeling the gravity of our choices, the delicate balance between seeking answers and risking everything we held dear. Soon, we agreed to meet later at my family home, but for now, I let myself revel in the tentative bond reforming amongst us, flickering like a candle's flame in a wavering wind. Yet, even as I felt the balm of camaraderie begin to soothe the sharpness of dread lurking above, a clamoring thought pulled at my heart. The chase for the truth, I understood, would not come without sacrifices, and how far I was willing to go haunted me. As we reached the door, preparing to unravel the threads of fate that tied us all together, my phone buzzed with a new message. The screen lit up with the name that sent shivers down my spine, Nathan. My breath caught in my throat as I swiped to reveal his words, an ominous promise decorated with malice. You'll regret everything you choose to uncover. Some truths don't belong in the light. The weight of his threat settled in my chest, twisting my gut into a tight coil of fear. I turned slowly to Cameron, feeling the gravity of the moment cast its shadow over us. The truth beckoned louder than ever, but so did the knowledge that some questions might take more than I was willing to offer. Are we prepared for what lies ahead? I whispered, not just to Cameron, but to the fabric of our fragile alliance. The answer, held in the silence of the room, loomed larger than life, a promise of turbulent winds that would soon blow through everything we held dear. With an unsteady breath, I stepped into the familiar world of my childhood home, every creak of the floorboards digging up ghostly echoes of laughter, whispers, and the lingering scent of my mother's favorite jasmine perfume. The air held so many memories, both warm and haunting, wrapping around me like a shroud. Eliza, Victor, and Cameron flanked me, but my heart thudded loudly, a steady drum against the silence that had settled so thickly since my mother's passing. I hesitated at the threshold of my old room, apprehension knotting my stomach. "Do you think it's still here?" I murmured, not fully convinced of my own question. Victor stepped in beside me, his presence grounding. "Whatever it is, we'll find it. It's something that belonged to her. It'll lead us forward, I promise." His voice turned my trepidation into a flicker of hope, just a faint glimmer in the darkness. As we entered, the room felt almost untouched, as if the world outside had forgotten this small space where dreams and secrets once coexisted. Dust motes danced lazily in the sunlight streaming through the window, and I felt the compulsion to touch everything to soak up remnants of a life filled with love before unraveling what was hidden beneath the surface. Sebastian, Cameron's hand rested suggestively on the top of the old dresser. "You think it's in here? Any clue where to start?" "Her jewelry box was always on the nightstand," I replied, leading the way. I opened the drawer slowly, trepidation tightening around me like a vice. Every item I lifted felt like an excavation into deeper, buried pain, an assortment of tangled necklaces and forgotten treasures that told stories of a woman I barely recognized. It didn't take long for the jewelry box to emerge, its polished wooden surface gleaming under the dust. My hands trembled as I set it down on the bed, feeling the weight of my past resting beneath my palms. Swallowing hard, I lifted the lid and opened a world of nostalgia. There it was, my mother's ring. At once exquisite and haunting, it glinted like a beacon amidst a jumble of mismatched pieces. My fingers brushed the cool surface gingerly, memories flooding back. I could remember her slipping it off with a sigh, a moment forever etched in my mind. Eliza, I breathed, my voice barely above a whisper. As she leaned closer, I saw surprise and understanding wash over her face. It's beautiful, Camila. But do you think it's really what you're looking for? What if it's just a piece of jewelry? What she couldn't see, though, was the life I felt thrumming in the ring. Its presence echoed with unspoken words, a connection to my mother that I was desperate to understand. I felt the urge to put it on, to wear her story and her secrets, but the moment was interrupted as something else caught my eye, a small, jumbled mass of letters tucked in the bottom of the box. Cameron's curiosity piqued as he leaned over my shoulder, his breath warm against my neck. "What is that?" he asked. I reached for the letters, brushing my fingers against the weathered paper. The first one was worn and brittle, the ink faded with age, but a name leapt off the page, Nathan. My heart dropped, gnashing teeth in a vice. These must be old letters between my mother and him, I breathed, tremors breaking through my voice. A sudden tension charged the room, shifting the air thickly around us. Eliza grasped my arm, her eyes wide, an unspoken question hanging between us. Was this a blessing or a curse? I scanned the room, suddenly wary, that flicker of the past turning dark. Did I really want to learn the depths of this connection? With shaking hands, I opened the first letter. Each word seemed to resonate with a haunting familiarity, sentiments that echoed years of pain and unnerving recognition. My mother's voice carried vividly even through the veil of time, expressing fears, regrets, and longing that felt overwhelmingly personal. The last line twisted something deep inside me, illuminating a truth I had never expected. I'm terrified of what the future holds for us, Nathan. Some truths we cannot escape. As I read, tears began to sting the corners of my eyes, an eruption of emotions, confusion, anger, betrayal. Nathan's specter loomed larger, transforming into a force that continued to unravel everything I thought I understood. Camila? Victor's voice nudged me back to the present, concern etched on his brow, as if he could sense the tempest swirling within me. Are you all right? No, I murmured, looking from the letters to the ring resting in my palm. This is not just about my mother anymore. Nathan is entwined with her story, in a way I wasn't prepared for. Eliza stepped closer, her touch gentle but firm. We need a plan. If Nathan was part of your mother's past, it means he is more dangerous than we thought. What if there's more you don't know? The realization gripped me harder than any fear I'd ever known. I was standing on the precipice of a churning wave of discovering the truth, even as my gut twisted with a sense of peril. We have to confront Nathan together. If this is our only chance to untangle the truth, we can't wait any longer. But he might not be alone. Just then, my phone buzzed again, drawing my attention to the screen. I hesitated before glancing at it, dread curling in my stomach as Nathan's name glimmered ominously once more. My heart raced as I read the new message, the words cutting sharper than before. I see you have my letters. Be careful what truths you unearth, dear Camila. Some things can shatter lives, and some things are meant to stay buried. Panic surged like a tidal wave. The letters in my grasp felt like a key to all the chaos I was unraveling, but the weight of Nathan's threat hung heavy in the room, an anchor that threatened to pull us down into deeper, darker waters. As I exchanged glances with Cameron, Eliza, and Victor, I knew our fragile alliance faced the tempest ahead, and the battle wouldn't just be against Nathan, but against the past itself. Whatever happens next, I whispered, bravely clutching my mother's ring and the letters. We have to stay together. But as their faces reflected my resolve, I felt the undeniable truth that some threads, once pulled, might lead to unraveling the very fabric of our lives. The silence in my childhood room was almost deafening. The only sound echoing was the soft shuffle of feet and the rustling of paper. Nathan's message loomed in my mind like a storm cloud ready to burst. Even within this cocoon of familiarity, Dread tightened its hold on me, a vice squeezing tighter with every moment, every breath. Camila, Eliza's voice broke through my swirling thoughts, sharp and clear. What do you want to do? We can't just sit here and wait for him to act. The urgency in her voice was a lifeline thrown into my turbulent sea of uncertainties. Little did she know that waiting felt like a trap, leading to something darker hidden beneath the surface of our entangled histories. We need more information, I finally said, trying to muster strength from somewhere deep within. But I cannot confront Nathan without knowing what he wants. I can't give him the chance to twist this against me. Cameron nodded slowly, his brow furrowed. We can search for anyone who knew your mother and Nathan. There must be someone, maybe even a family friend, who could shed light on their relationship. His optimism was like an anchor, oriented in the right direction. Victor crossed his arms, his body tense, exuding strength and an air of protectiveness. We can start with that, scout the area. But Camila, we need to be careful. With Nathan lurking, we're treading on unpredictable ground. Forcing a nod of agreement, I felt a spark of determination ignite in me, even against my racing heart. Let us split up, then. I can make a trip to the coffee shop down the street where Mom used to meet her friends. Maybe they can help. The thought brought fragments of memories cascading back, afternoons filled with laughter, and the comforting aroma of brewing coffee. As we collected ourselves to leave, I caught a glimmer of light against the window, my mother's ring in my palm pulsating with warmth, as if it held a heartbeat. I'll keep this with me, I said, securing it safely in my pocket. It feels like a part of her is urging me forward, reminding me I'm not alone. And with that, we stepped out of the house, into the heart of the town that had once felt like a sanctuary, but now appeared to be filled with shadows of the past. As we strolled down the familiar sidewalk, the wind whispered past us, carrying a sense of change. I caught a glimpse of Eliza leaning in to huddle beside Victor, exchanging soft words. The bond we forged through this turmoil was growing, a comfort against the dark tide that threatened to pull us into its depths. The coffee shop was just around the corner, the small green door framing the bustling warmth within. The familiar chime of the bell overhead triggered a cascade of memories, the sensation pulling a smile onto my lips. But as I glanced around, seeking a friendly face, dread crept back into my heart at the thought that maybe, in a place so full of memories, I'd find echoes of pain rather than resolution. Camila? The gentle voice of Mrs. Lane, one of my mother's closest friends, called from behind the counter, her apron now a little frayed, but her spirit as bright as ever. Is that you? Hi, Mrs. Lane, I managed, relief washing over me. I'm back for some answers. Her smile faded slightly, understanding that my return wasn't entirely celebratory. I heard about your mother. I'm so sorry for your loss. There was a tenderness in her eyes, a depth of compassion that sank through my defenses. Thank you. It's been hard, I replied, searching her face for any hint at the truth around Nathan. I found some letters. I didn't know she had a relationship with someone named Nathan. Do you know anything about him? Mrs. Lane's expression shifted subtly, the warmth in her features cooling. Ah, Nathan's a complex man. Her voice wavered, a hint of fear edging into her tone. What I can tell you is that he influenced your mother in ways I never fully grasped. He was part of a life she tried to leave behind. The weight of her words sank in as the truth materialized, strange tendrils tightening around my heart. Each revelation unfurled further. Layers of the woman I thought I knew. Why did she leave him? I pressed, desperation tinging my voice. She hesitated, glancing around as if the truth were an intruder lurking in the shadows. Camila, it isn't easy to talk about. Nathan always seemed to have an impact on her, something that held her captive even as she wished for freedom. Seeing her with him was like watching a flower wilt under a dark sky. As the words wrapped around my senses, Fear chilled the air between us, tightening like a noose. My mother's connection to this man was sewn into her afterlife with threads of suffering. What do you mean? Did she ever mention any threats? Mrs. Lane sighed heavily, stirring the remnants of my apprehension. There were whispers, rumors of a dangerous path he was on. People knew little, but when the shadows grew deep, your mother did her best to keep you away from him. I thought she had succeeded. That single thread unraveled farther, shocking me with the realization that my mother had ultimately made choices to protect me, but at what cost? Regains of love entwined with fear had brought her to a dangerous precipice. Mrs. Lane, I think he is here again. I received a message. And as the words left my lips, a chill washed over the space between us. Another acknowledgement of my mother's forbidden past. The barista looked at me with concern, dread pooling in her eyes. You must be careful, dear. Nathan doesn't he take rejection lightly. Suddenly, realization struck like lightning. The chain of choices that led my mother, and now me toward perilous confrontation unraveled even more. He didn't he just scare my mom. He must have driven her away from everything she loved. What if Nathan would try to silence me too? Camilla, Mrs. Lane stepped closer, her voice a fierce whisper now. If he reaches out, don't engage. Let your friends know, and keep your guard up. You're playing with fire. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed again in my pocket, the electronic sound like a jarring bell tolling a rising dread. Yanking it out, my heart lurched at the sight of Nathan once more. A new message. What did she tell you, Camilla? You're digging into matters best left untouched. I suggest you tread carefully in this game. I will not hesitate to safeguard what is mine. My heart raced, and the familiar threads of panic unraveled into a waterfall of fear. I was caught in a game of shadows, and darkness was rising with every step I took toward the truth. The fight was no longer just with my past, but a living threat who had claimed his territory. As I looked at Mrs. Lane, concern etched across her face mingled with worry. Certainty gripped me. There was a motive behind Nathan's words. He wasn't he just a remnant of my mother's past. His presence loomed larger, shifting the entire narrative as my mother's story intertwined with a danger that could swallow me whole. I had opened Pandora's box, but all I could do now was hold tight to the only thread of hope I had, my friends, and the shared resolve we forged in these chilling winds of discontent. We have to go. We can't stay here, I whispered urgently, my heart racing with every beat. Against the backdrop of my childhood, fear clawing at my resolve, I knew the battle for the past had only just begun. The chill of urgency swept through me as we left the coffee shop, my mind racing with Nathan's menacing words echoing in my ears. Every step we took away from the shop felt heavier, burdened by a reality I was only beginning to grasp. My stomach twisted in knots, urgency punctuating each heartbeat. Camilla, are you okay? Eliza's voice broke through my tempestuous thoughts as she fell into step beside me. Worry etched across her features only deepened the weight resting on my shoulders. I forced a reassuring smile, though inside, I felt like a porcelain doll teetering on the edge of a shelf. Yeah, I'm scared of what is coming. Cameron and Victor flanked us, their presence a silent shield against the uncertainty looming ahead. Cameron's gaze was fixed straight ahead, a hint of determination cracking through his usual demeanor. We'll face whatever he throws our way, Camilla. Together. Together, I echoed, the word a lifeline I clung to, but the true essence of it felt like a gentle not possible whispering beneath. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was stepping deeper into a labyrinth where I might lose not only myself, but the people I cherished most. As we reached my house, the familiar sights transformed into specters of fear. Each shadow seemed to breathe ominously. If Nathan was indeed watching, we needed to act fast. Venturing into the darker corners of our memories illuminated the prospect of a battle more daunting than any of us could ever imagine. Let us make a plan, Victor said, as we gathered in the living room, the curtains drawn tight, staving off the impending dusk. We need a safe way to gather more information. If Nathan doesn't like we're digging, he might come after us, especially if he sees you've been asking questions. I felt a swell of gratitude for him. Despite the storm raging in our lives, his steadfastness became a beacon. We can check out some records at the town hall tomorrow. Maybe we can trace back any connections between my mom and Nathan, I suggested, realizing that with every close memory returned, fragments of her life seemed more real. Eliza nodded earnestly, though there was a flicker of concern in her eyes. Sure, but we also need to lay low. I'll make sure to look into some files at school, see if there is any information there we can access without drawing too much attention. As we devised our clandestine strategy, an unexpected sound broke through our desperate planning. A soft knock echoed from the kitchen door. Frozen, we exchanged uncertain glances. Who could that be? I murmured, and the atmosphere shifted, thickening with layers of dread. Victor moved cautiously toward the door, peering out through the small window. It's Mrs. Lane, she looks worried. My heart leapt. The flood of dread morphed into a glimmer of hope. Maybe she had more information to aid us. Victor opened the door gently, allowing her in. Camila, she began, her voice shaky, eyes darting as if all security had vanished. I didn't want to come here, but I felt compelled. I just got a call from an old friend of your mother's. You need to hear this. A chill coursed through me, racing my heart. What is it? Your mother, she kept secrets, Camila. Secrets that involved Nathan. I believe she put it all away, buried under hope for a better future for you. But there is something else, something deeper. I took a step closer, urgency urging me to listen. Mrs. Lane pulled a crumpled envelope from her coat pocket, handing it to me like a fragile heirloom. This is what I was given. Your mother had started documenting everything she was afraid of. People she felt were involved. I didn't think it was true until I saw Nathan's name in it, as my fingers traced the edges of the parchment. A wave of nausea enveloped me, holding me captive in dark revelations before I even unraveled its contents. I have to read this now. Wait, Camila, Eliza interrupted, her voice tight. Shouldn't we wait until we're sure it's safe? But as I pulled the letter from the envelope, a tenuous thread of belonging wove itself deeper into my being. The inked letters, forming sentences, promised connection, tantalizing glimpses of my mother's truths, while cryptically drawing me closer to the precipice we were teetering on. Suddenly, the door creaked again, and we turned. Victor was still watching the front, tense lines streaking across his face. I could see concern powerfully etched in his expression. Someone else out there. My heart cracked wide open, dread reverberating through my veins. What do you mean? The door rattled, echoing like a pounding heartbeat, and the air was thick with an urgent tension, threatening to swallow us. Throwing the crumpled letter on the coffee table as if relinquishing the burden, I stepped toward Victor, who braced against the wall, eyes wide with vigilance. Stay back, his voice became low, the kind of tone I had never known him to use. We need to be quiet. Don't let them know we're here. As questions swirled like a tempest in my mind, realization washed over me. Our sanctuary might quickly crumble like sand beneath our feet. I wasn't simply confronting ghosts from the past. Nathan was a living, breathing menace, and he might have found us. Suddenly, just as quickly as it had begun, there came a swift, solid knock, deeper, more forceful, resonating through the looming silence, each sound like a clarion call to an unfolding battle far greater than I could have ever imagined. This time, I didn't just feel fear. I felt a decisive weight, a growing storm that promised not only conflict but a weighty reckoning with all my mother had kept buried, and the truth that lurked just within reach. The tension shattered the air around us like glass, shards of uncertainty glimmering in the dim light of the living room. Everyone seemed to hold their breath, the echo of that knock resonating deep within me, a summons to the past I had been so desperate to understand. Victor stood firmly near the door, his body rigid and ready, while Eliza and Mrs. Lane huddled close together, exchanging fearful glances. My heart pounded against my ribs like a war drum, knowing that whatever lay on the other side was something I had no power to prevent. "Who is it?" I whispered, my voice fraught with urgency. I felt the weight of all those unanswered questions piling high, the looming specter of Nathan overshadowing even my most precious memories. "I don't know," Victor replied, his voice low and gravelly. "But if it's him, we need to stay silent." Panic surged within me. Nathan's looming presence felt like a chokehold, making it increasingly clear that he was the boogeyman of my mother's past, and now he was haunting my future. If he had been watching us this entire time, every move, every whispered promise had been a potential crack in our fragile alliance. I stole a glance at the letter my mother had left behind. The promise of truth imbued in its words could very well become a weapon against me if I wasn't careful. The pounding came again, harder this time, each thud an ominous reminder that ghosts don't linger quietly. It was clear the time for timid whispers was over. "We need to do something," I urged, my voice trembling as I gripped the furniture for support. Victor moved closer to the door, but despite the intensity in his stance, fear clouded his features. "Camila, just stay behind me," he warned, inching toward the door with caution. My instincts flared. "No, wait! I can't hide anymore. He has to hear my voice if I'm ever going to face his demons." The words slipped free without my conscious intent, powered by anger, frustration, and a yearning that had built over the years. "Camila, don't!" Eliza hissed under her breath, worry gripping her features like a vice. But it felt like a lifetime of pain was knotted in my gut, and no amount of shelter could prepare me for this moment. I moved forward, heart pounding, the engagement with the other side imminent. The knock echoed again, more of an insistence now, one that promised inevitable confrontation, and in a moment of despairing resolve, I opened the door with fierce determination. The hinges creaked, revealing the familiar silhouette of Nathan. Gone was any semblance of warmth or charm. Instead, he stood there, eyes glistening with a calm but cold determination, like the eye of a storm, ready to unleash chaos. "Camila," he started, but I met his gaze head-on, allowing my chin to lift defiantly. "You think you can just waltz back into our lives without any explanation or accountability?" Every ounce of fury I had mustered spilled from my lips, surging like a tide crashing down upon him. "You don't own the truth, Nathan." His lips curled into an unsettling smile, as if my anger was merely a puzzle to be solved rather than a true threat. Such fire, he mused, but something darker lurked beneath his facade. "You must understand. Your mother's secrets are bound in a cage you know nothing about. And if you insist on unlocking it, you won't be prepared for the truth that lies within." Chilled by his words, I gripped the doorframe tightly just to keep from staggering backward. "What do you mean? You think you can intimidate me into silence? You think you can hide the past forever?" I could feel the weight of Eliza and Victor behind me, their anxious energy crackling like static. "Whatever you know or think you know, I still want the truth. I am ready." Nathan's mocking expression darkened, a flicker of the predator in his demeanor resurfaced. "Ready? Listen to me closely. The past isn't a fairy tale, and that ring you cling onto so desperately has a darker story than you realize." He stepped closer. His tone had shifted, the confidence evaporating into something dangerous. "Your mother had sealed her fate long before you came into the picture." Each word felt like a blade, slicing through the veil of certainty surrounding my mother's past, a past I thought I would one day get answers about. "What did she do?" I demanded, but a creeping dread filled the silence. All I had fought for surged through my heart like a raging river. What if my resolve opened doors I couldn't close? Enough of this, Nathan. Victor stepped in, an imposing figure guarding my entrance into a realm I barely understood. You don't have any claim over her. Her life is not yours to play with. Nathan regarded Victor with amusement, but the shadow of malice loomed. You think you can shield her from the truth? This isn't about sentiment. This is business. And all parties involved need to remember their roles. The way Nathan spoke made it clear he had little regard for the emotions tethered to this ordeal. This was a game. A dangerous, high-stakes game where the lines between family, loyalty, and betrayal blurred painfully. I looked at him, piercing through the bravado he flaunted. What do you want from me? Only the truth as you seek it. But I warn you, he replied, his voice dropping to a low, foreboding whisper, you might not like what you discover. Silence hung heavy in the air, dense with the realization that Nathan held far more power than I anticipated. I'm not afraid of the truth, I asserted defiantly. Nathan's gaze sharpened. Perhaps not, but you will be. He turned on his heel, facing the growing shadows behind him. You're in this much deeper than you realize, little Camilla. When the storm comes, and believe me, you will wish you had never unearthed what lies behind that ring and those letters. Before I could respond, he stepped back, fading from view, a dark figure enveloped in the night, leaving a chilling promise hanging in the air. The door fell shut as I turned. The silence that followed felt like an oppressive weight, squeezing around us and filling the space with dread. Eliza took my hand, squeezing it tightly, as if to anchor me away from the abyss Nathan had just opened. Victor's face was taut, anger and concern crossing his features as he glanced toward me. You just provoked a lion, and now he knows we're onto him, he cautioned, voice heavy with the repercussions that were sure to follow. We need to act fast, and we need to be prepared for what spins out from his darkness. Together, Cameron said softly, stepping closer, encapsulating me in a warmth that pushed back against the chilling reality. Whatever path we take it together. The truth may be lurking in the dark, but so are we. I felt a resolute breath escape me, a tether forming against the chaos that threatened to engulf us. Then we have to dig deeper. If we can understand her past, we'll find a way to confront Nathan on our terms. United in purpose, we gathered ourselves. The fire inside each of us ignited again despite the shadows curling around our edges. And with the knowledge that the truth lay waiting beyond our reach, we stepped forward into the uncertainty. As we moved to collect the scattered fragments of my past, I tugged the ring from my pocket, its warmth radiating against my palm, a reminder of the love that once was, and the strength I would harness to conquer whatever darkness lay ahead. What lies buried is not always meant to stay that way. Sometimes it needs to see the light to find peace again. My heart whispered in unison with the flicker of hope that nestled within me, as I vowed to uncover the truth even if it brought about the storm of a lifetime.